The 2024 Pittsburgh Steelers. Why this year is going to be different than any year we've had since 2020. I'm Ron John. This is your weekly session with Steelers Therapy. So go ahead and sit back, relax, get in that nice comfy therapy chair that's kind of shaped like a U with angles at the side. And let's dive into how we feel about the 2024 Pittsburgh Steelers and really where we came from 2020. So the one word that comes to mind when I think about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and certainly how you should think about them, is expectations. It's all about expectations. When you go back to the days of Big Ben and all the way through 2020, it was expected that the Steelers would vie for a Super Bowl every single year. That was the expectation. We had a Hall of Fame coach, or who we believe is going to be a Hall of Fame coach. We had a Hall of Fame quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger. We had talent all over the field. We always seemed to have a winning season or the ability to get to the playoffs. And anytime you had Big Ben, especially when he was playing well, you always had the expectation that we were at least going to vie for a Super Bowl. We were going to get to the playoffs and play some meaningful games. But then what happened in 2020 against the Baltimore Ravens? The Pittsburgh Steelers broke. They broke down, almost like a car that just stops working and the engine sputters and that's it. It's beyond repair. That was a season where we were undefeated, 11 games. And ultimately, we played that 11th game against Baltimore, and you could see, even though we won that game, we played pretty much all of Baltimore's backups for a season that was lost for them, and we could barely win that game at home. And after that, the suckfest started of Steelers not being able to beat easy teams, not being able to be that team that we all thought they were. We effectively lost 4 of our last 5 games and went into the playoffs and got manhandled by the Browns at home. And from then on, the Steelers, there was no expectation that they were going to be good. There was no expectation that there was going to be a Super Bowl. And what ended up happening at that point was, instead of looking at the situation and understanding it, is owners like Art Rooney, GMs like Kevin Colbert, coaches like Mike Tomlin. I'm not sure who bears the responsibility, but instead of looking at it and coming to terms with, okay, the car is broken down, it has 200,000 miles on it, we need to rebuild, we need a new car. They wouldn't believe that. Fans wouldn't believe that. I know certainly you wouldn't believe that. Pittsburgh pundits didn't believe that, but it was something I knew, and it was something a very small, sector of Steelers fans could see and understand, that the team needed a reset. It wasn't going to vie for a Super Bowl in 2021. That wasn't going to be the expectation, even with Big Ben coming back and playing halfway decent. Was not going to happen. And that's why, if you remember, and you're probably like me, some of those games that we lost in the teens with the, killer bees and things, it was emotional. You got upset, right? Because you didn't expect that. You expected that team to perform like an all-star team. In 2021, 2022, 2023, I wasn't emotional in any of those losses. I wasn't that upset. Why? Because I knew that this team wasn't a good team. They weren't going to vie for a Super Bowl. There wasn't even a scenario that you could come up with in your head, in your imagination, just to make it up, of how the Steelers could get to a Super Bowl. It was never going to happen. So instead of realizing this is the brass and coaches in the Steelers, what did they do? They panicked, and they started drafting for need. And this has crippled the team in its ability to come out of this and build a team that does have expectations to get to a Super Bowl. And let me give you an example. It's okay to not be married and to wait for the right girl to come along. It's okay. If you're in school and you see your friends having girlfriends, If you're a grown man, you see your friends, getting married, having kids. You start getting into your 30s, even your 40s, and you go, everybody's having, this marriage and everybody's got a girlfriend or something like that. I need one too. So what do? You go, I got to force fit it. I got to, fix this void in my life, the key void. So what do a lot of people do? They force fit a girl or a woman that isn't right for them, simply because they want a family. And I think everybody wants that. Everybody wants to feel loved. They want to have somebody there with them. They want to find that perfect person. Just look at TV. Every show is about finding your perfect match. Every online dating site about finding your perfect someone. We all need that, innately, within us. It drives us. It's the same thing in football. Everybody wants a Super Bowl. Everybody wants to have that feeling to find the one, to win that game. But ultimately, like I said, if you force fit it, if you see everybody else around you, you go, no, I need a girlfriend too. I need a wife too. Then you find a girl that, it might seem okay on the surface, and you go, yeah, this is good. But you're in a bad frame of mind. You're not thinking right. You're not thinking about what kind of woman you actually need, what woman that you can provide to. So you probably start chasing the wrong women, or you start saying yes to women that maybe if you were in a rational mind, you'd say no to. And then what does that lead to? It leads to long, painful relationships where you break up. It leads to long, painful marriages where you end up in divorce. And it's messy if you have kids. It's messy to pull it apart from a financial situation. Many of you might have been divorced or married and know what I'm talking about when it comes to the messiness of the finances and things. If you're a little younger with a girlfriend, it's a lot easier. You can just call them and be done. But still, it's a hard thing to go through. Now, let's sort of relate this to the Pittsburgh Steelers and what they've done over the past few years. So after that 2020 season, instead of accepting it, they decided to draft for need and drafted in the first round in 2021 a running back who should have never been drafted in the first round. Najee Harris did not have first round qualities. Most running backs don't. And it's not because they're not good. It's because the running back position is fungible, which means it can be replaced very easily. It's not a long shelf life type of a position. It takes a lot of punishment. And the Steelers certainly had issues on the ground, weren't able to run the ball for whatever reason. Maybe it was a lack of having good running backs. Maybe it was the offensive line. Maybe it was a declining Big Ben and, stacking the box. Could have been a lot of things. Could have been bad coaching. But instead of looking at the team and drafting the best player available or the best players that are going to give Steelers the chance to win a Super Bowl a few years down the line, we completely pissed that down the drain by drafting who has been a lower tier running back in the NFL. And if you don't believe me, look at Najee Harris's stats. They're pretty putrid. He doesn't even run for 4 yards a carry, and that's not even the best metric for running backs. It's success rate. He's still in the bottom of the league in success rate. His yards per carry are low, and he's slow. And you all know it. You can look at it and see it. He's not explosive. And not only that, you have a lot of running backs that are slow. Le'Veon Bell was slow. He never could run for big plays, but he was explosive off the line. He could accelerate quickly. Najee can't accelerate and explode, and he doesn't have a second gear, so you're not going to get big plays. And we drafted that first round. And I don't know if you guys know the price value on a first round pick, but it's probably somewhere around $20 million, if not more, given trades and in the current market conditions. So we drafted a running back that literally did nothing for our team, but to really keep this crap show going in 2021. And ultimately, you saw what it led to. Big Ben still could play a little bit of ball. I think we made it to the playoffs that year and just got hammered by the Kansas City Chiefs. But that's a microcosm of the whole season and what it was. I mean, the Steelers were lucky to get to the playoffs. We needed a lot of luck to get to the playoffs. And ultimately, we showed that we had no business being there. And then what happened? our Hall of Fame quarterback retires. He goes away. And we go, we got to fill this void. We got to draft a quarterback in the first round. And quarterbacks are hard to come by. It's not just like you can trade for any quarterback. Teams that have franchise quarterbacks, they hold on to them. They pay them. That's why quarterbacks are getting paid obscene amounts of money now. $55 million a year, I think, is the going rate. So you're not always going to be able to find a quarterback. Some years you have to deal with a bridge quarterback. And those years, you have to come to terms with the fact that you're not going to win a Super Bowl. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. But the bridge quarterback's there to keep the team competitive so people can continue to play and learn and grow. Fans can watch. Hopefully you see some fun games. But ultimately, there's a longer-term plan. But what the Steelers did, they drafted a kid who had no business being drafted in the first round. None. Kenny Pickett is a third or fourth round pick, and he was then. I said it then. A ton of people said it then. Hand size does matter. Your speed does matter. This is a different league. You need quarterbacks that have powerful arms, that can have speed, that are quick, that showed, tremendous promise in college. Kenny Pickett showed none of that. He played decent for Pitt his last year, but ultimately didn't do well in the combine. His stats were not that great for Pitt. It was a hometown story. It was a force fit. And it really wasn't fair to him for the Steelers to say, you are a first round pick. You're our guy. And ultimately, what did it lead to? Kenny Pickett has been really an unmitigated disaster. We wasted another first round pick on a quarterback that's probably going to be in the lower tier of backup quarterbacks in this league, if not be out of this league in a few years. He can't throw touchdowns. So bad, in fact, his touchdown percentage is historically bad for a quarterback that's thrown for more than 500 pass attempts. And I knew this within 5 games. I'm a statistician. I'm a Lean Six Sigma black belt. It doesn't take but a handful of games to understand what a quarterback is capable of. Sure, there are quarterbacks that play better in subsequent years, but after you've thrown the ball a couple hundred times and you don't throw touchdowns, it's pretty clear you struggle to throw touchdowns. He struggled to throw the ball down the field. He had a very low yards per completion percentage, which is probably the best metric to assess quarterbacks, or adjusted net yards per completion. That means every time the quarterback touches the ball, how far down the field do they advance it? Kenny Pickett's always in the lower 3 or the lower 5 in the league. Just didn't have it. And we force fit it. And then look what happened. An ugly divorce, right? Instead of just drafting the best players that were available and waiting for an opportunity to come to get a quarterback, that could be something that actually does have the tools and skills. Not every quarterback that does play well in college and that does well in a combine ends up manifesting into a great quarterback, but at least there's a hope. They've got the tools, they've got the skills. The Steelers drafted Big Ben. He was the third quarterback, but he was undefeated his last year in college, even though it was a small school. He was huge hands, strong arm, very confident. He had all the tools, and it ended up manifesting into something good. Sometimes it doesn't. But the Steelers essentially set this team back by drafting for need. And I don't know if Kevin Colbert just lost his mind, or if Art Rooney Sr. is the one pulling the strings, if who's got the influence. Maybe it's Mike Tomlin. But with Kenny Pickett, let me give you a quick example for those of you that are in business or understand business. When executives make a capital investment, and that's what a first-round draft pick is, it's a significant capital investment. Let's say to build a new facility, and we're going to make our own products because we have this service where we're going to make our own products, and we're going to vertically integrate, build our own facility. And you build the facility, and then you figure out, a year or two down the line, we are not good at manufacturing. We're not good at building this and vertically integrating. We were good at just providing the service, for the product or the installation of it, but we're not good at this. So we're actually not hitting our revenue targets. We're not profitable. And that's not a good thing. So what do you do as a company? A lot of executives end up running the company into the ground because it's out of pride. It's out of, well, we made this commitment. We're going to make it work. We're going to figure it out. Find out how. But ultimately, the best businesses can go, we made a mistake. We shouldn't have spent a couple $100 million on this facility because we're not good at manufacturing. So what are we going to do? We're going to mitigate it as best as possible, right? We're going to sell the facility to somebody who is good at manufacturing, maybe come up with a partnership with them, but we're going to clamp the bleeding and invest into what we are good at, which is installing the thing or providing the service. The Steelers had an opportunity to move off of Kenny Pickett after the first year. Everybody in the world should have known that he was not capable, but we decided we're going to run it back again. And I tell you what, if they were going to run it back again this year, I would have been just sick to my stomach every game watching it. And I don't mean this as a way to bash on Kenny Pickett, but if you're not watching the same games I am, the same quarterback I am, he's not even really a good backup quarterback. Just not a good fit. You've got to realize that and pull the plug. And it all came to a head when they put in Mason Rudolph, who played in order of magnitude better than Kenny Pickett. And Mason Rudolph is a halfway decent backup quarterback. He's not a starter. And look at the change in that. And it goes back to my point about executives not wanting, being too prideful to say, hey, we got it wrong. We shouldn't have built this facility. Mike Tomlin may have very much advised Art Rooney Sr., Kevin Colbert, that Kenny Pickett isn't good. And our best quarterback is Mason Rudolph. But hey, we made the investment. We told him this, that, and the other thing. And finally, Kevin Colbert retires, and now we've got Omar Khan. And this sort of leads me into this next chapter in Steelers history in 2024. Omar Khan, I don't know what his legacy is going to be. You know, everybody likes a new person off the bat, but his first draft was great. And it really produced a lot of results. This next draft has been good. He's pulled some rabbits out of his hat. He knew Kenny Pickett wasn't the guy, found an opportunity to get rid of Kenny Pickett, brought in a quarterback that might be old in Russell Wilson, but still has some magic in him probably, or at least has the ability to get that magic, right? Russell Wilson, for what anybody wants to say about his, downturn, he threw, 26, 27 touchdowns last year to 8 picks. Kenny Pickett doesn't throw touchdowns. He can't. He is so historically bad at throwing touchdowns. In the 2 seasons he played, he threw for 2 touchdowns 1 time. He's never taken over a game. He's never been able to. Russell Wilson still can. And I'm sure he still will in some games in 2024. And then we brought in Justin Fields. Now, Justin Fields struggled in Chicago. I don't know if he's going to manifest into a good starting quarterback. But here's what I know about Justin Fields. He's played at least 2, if not 3 games where he scored 4 or more touchdowns. He's capable to take over a game. So now you got a question mark, which is a good thing in Justin Fields, that he could potentially be a starter. And you've got a known commodity in Russell Wilson. And if with the right coaching, I think Russell Wilson took the most sacks last year, held on to the ball the longest. That's coachable. We can coach that out of Russ. So now you've got a team that got dramatically better at the most important position on the team. With a guy that's won a Super Bowl before, with a guy that has beaten Patrick Mahomes before, and that's critical. So now what do we have in 2024? We have a team so let's go back to expectations. All the way through Big Ben's tenure, it was expected we were going to win a Super Bowl. From 2004, we went 15-1 that year. I was at that Jets game in the playoffs. We still expected that they were going to win a Super Bowl. And we did all the way up through 2020, or really through game 11 after watching Baltimore. I think in that game, everybody knew that the team was literally breaking down. 2021, 2022, 2023, we all knew we were never going to win a Super Bowl. There wasn't an expectation. There wasn't even a way to visually imagine it. It was never going to happen. too many good quarterbacks in the AFC, too many good players. But in 2024, it is unlikely that the Steelers will win a Super Bowl. I think there are better teams and there are going to be tougher teams to play. But there is a scenario. There's a way you can envision the team winning a Super Bowl. We're going to be better than last year on both offense and defense. We're going to have a number one cornerback in Joey Porter. TJ Watt's going to continue to have monster seasons. Hopefully players like Minkah Fitzpatrick come back and are able to, get back to Mika ball. Receivers like George Pickens, you'd hope take a step forward, especially with the upgrade in quarterback and the offensive line. Hopefully the Steelers split carries 50-50 from Najee to Jaylen Warren. I don't think they will. I think they'll make that mistake again. Najee Harris is a lower tier quarterback, running back. Whereas I think Jaylen Warren is an ascending running back in the mid tiers and could get into the, better running backs in the league if he gets some more time with the football. So what I'm saying is this year is different because we really can envision a scenario where perhaps the Steelers get a little bit of tailwind, a little bit of luck. They get into some big games and maybe they find themselves in the big game with a chance to win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying it's going to happen or likely to happen, but we can envision it. And I certainly expect this team to make the playoffs and maybe not win a game, but compete in a game. The Steelers have not been competitive in playoff games in I think 6 or 7 years. Watching them game after game getting blown out by the Bills, by the Browns, by the Chiefs, by the Jacksonville Jaguars and Blake Bortles. This team should be different. It's going to have a good defense. The offense should be improved. And I think everybody should be a little bit more excited than we once were. It's about having realistic expectations of who and what this team is. Certainly, it is unlikely that we're going to win a Super Bowl with players like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, but it is possible. It is possible that Russ gets his magic back and that this team actually is a real team again that can really compete instead of being this half-ass team that barely sneaks into playoffs and gets their butt whooped. So that's how I think about the Steelers. We've really done some damage to this team over the past few years drafting for need. Omar Khan is a breath of fresh air who I think understands drafting the best available player and putting a team together that is actually competitive. How he was able to fleece the Broncos and get Russell Wilson for nothing and basically get Justin Fields for nothing is beyond me. It's a great thing. So we actually have some QBs that they could put some magic on. And I know I'm looking forward to this 2024 year to see what this team is made of, to see what this team's going to be in the future. I'm looking forward to Omar Khan continuing to help build a better team. Whether you like Mike Tomlin or not, Mike Tomlin is a steady force at the coaching position. He has coached a lot of games that should have been losses and got a lot of teams into the playoffs that should not have gotten in there. He's got his warts as well. He struggles to find coaches to surround himself with that are good. But I think this year it's a little bit different, bringing in a more known commodity like Arthur Smith. And hopefully this team is going to be more exciting to watch. And we're going to be a little bit happier as we watch them and see some touchdowns. So once again, this is Steelers Therapy, your weekly session for the week. I'm Ron John. Follow me on X, Twitter. I've got a Steelers Therapy out there. You'll be seeing me send some things and start interacting with you all, interacting with some Steelers influencers, maybe players. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Steelers Therapy, and we'll see you next time. Take care.